You don't deserve this, Lana. Chase is the one with vision for the future. Those were my mother Diane's words when she handed the deed of the new family business to my half-brother, right in the middle of our opening party. The champagne hadn't even been opened yet. I was still holding the golden scissors that had cut the inaugural ribbon, unaware that at that very moment she was cutting away the last drop of trust one had left in my own family. My name is Lana. I'm 31 years old and I spent the last 6 years working in business consulting and saving every penny of my salary. I graduated with a full scholarship, completed my MBA with student loans, slept on a friend's couch and ate instant noodles for months on end. All because I believed in a dream: to revive my parents' old artisanal furniture store and transform it into something modern and promising, our revitalized family heritage. Before we continue with the story, I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is very important to us. Thank you so much. The store was the pride of my late grandfather, who founded it with his own hands in the 1970s. After his death, my parents let the business wither away. But when I returned to town with experience, contacts, and a business plan in my backpack, I thought the time had come. My stepfather, Frank, was never enthusiastic about anything as usual. "Do you think you're going to save this sinking ship?" he said at our first meeting. But I pressed on. I presented the project, showed forecasts, and planned a complete rebranding. After months of negotiations, I decided to invest my entire reserve fund, $120,000. In exchange, the agreement was clear. The company would legally be in my name with profit sharing proportional to my capital injection. Everything was drafted with legal support. Everything was signed. Or so they made me believe. On the day of the party, the store looked like it had come straight out of a magazine. New illuminated signage, treated wood in the windows, a modern space with a retro touch that retained the soul of the brand. Emotion welled up inside me as people entered with smiles and shining eyes. Then, at the microphone, Diane took the floor. "Today is a special day. Not only for the opening of this new phase, but because it is time to recognize who truly represents the future of this company." She looked at me, smiled. But it wasn't the smile of a proud mother. It was a sharp smile disguised as tenderness. And then she extended an envelope to Chase. "The deed is in his name." For a second I thought it was a joke, a performance, a pleasant surprise. But my heart sank when I saw the signature of a local notary in the bottom corner of the document. It was authenticated, legalized. And Chase, with that same familiar smile, half cynical, half charming, raised the paper high like a trophy. Applause erupted. Some were confused. Others clearly forced. "But," I managed to say, trying to reach for the microphone. My mother turned to me firmly. "You're good with spreadsheets, Lana, but you're not a leader. You lack presence. Chase has charisma. He has commercial instinct. He will carry on your grandfather's legacy. You had your moment to shine. Now accept it." Accept? After working 70 hours a week? After spending years without a vacation? After investing absolutely everything I had? Next to me, Tina, my aunt, did not hide her indignation. She was my mother's sister, but she had always been my safe harbor. "This is illegal," she whispered. "This is wrong." And Riley, my best friend, was trembling with anger. "Do you want me to start shouting? Because I swear I will shout." But I didn't shout. Not at that moment. I swallowed hard, smiled on the outside, and greeted the guests. I was the face of calm, as I always had been. Because I knew right then that it would be the last time I'd let someone steal what was mine. And I was going to fight back. But in my own way. In the days that followed, I remained silent. On the outside I seemed resigned. But inside something was changing. After a lifetime of trying to please, balance, and be the ideal daughter, I began to accept an uncomfortable truth. My mother had never seen me as an heir, only as a stepping stone for her favorite son's success. She may have handed the deed to Chase. But the structure of the company, the foundation, the operations, the contacts, the brand identity, all of that was mine. On the outside I appeared at peace. Inside, my world burned in silent ashes. After the inauguration, the new store, now officially called Studio Franklin, a name Chase invented to sound more American, began operating normally. I continued going there because I was still responsible for almost everything. Accounts, suppliers, customer service, product design, branding, digital marketing. Everything went through me. But the name on the document was no longer mine. It was his. Chase would appear at the store once or twice a week, always wearing sunglasses and carrying an empty briefcase under his arm, as if he were on his way to a very important meeting. He greeted customers with that commercial smile and locked himself in the back office to play some action game on his laptop or make wild calls about international expansion. Meanwhile, I did what I always did, made the business work. But this time something was different. I started gathering evidence. Emails, contracts, voicemails from my mother and Chase, archived conversations, every payment made from my personal account to renovate that place, every invoice in my name, photos documenting each stage of the renovation, recordings of meetings, even a spreadsheet where Diane had written by hand, "Lana's initial investment will cover renovations and inventory." I backed everything up. 3 times. But it wasn't just about proving what was mine. It was about understanding why. Why would a mother override the daughter who literally saved the family business? The answer hit me one early morning as I stared at the reflection of the store in my car's window. Because she never wanted me in charge. She wanted me as labor. My mother had always been a silent strategist. She never shouted. Never hit. She manipulated. Distributed praise as rewards, and then withdrew it as punishment. When I got good grades, she said, "You worked hard, but you're no genius." When I was accepted into college, she commented, "Lucky you that there was a quota." And when I graduated with honors, she sighed, "Now the real world begins." With Chase, it was the opposite. "You will go far. You have brilliance. You were born to lead." He failed in an app startup. She said the market was simply behind for his genius. He lost $15,000 on a cryptocurrency course. He said that was an investment in himself. He left a fiancée on the eve of the wedding. He wasn't ready, it's fair. And now, with a renovated company full of customers, she was ready to hand it over to him on a silver platter, even if he had done nothing. Because in her mind I was just the invisible gear that made the clock work. And he, the pretty hand that appeared. But I was no longer going to be invisible. In the 3rd week after the inauguration, I began to put my plan into action. First, I changed all the access passwords for the systems I had set up. The CRM, the website, the social networks, the e-commerce platform. Everything was in my name. Chase never even wanted to learn how to use them. "Nerd stuff," he would say. Then I conducted a complete inventory and review of sales movements since the opening. The result was simple. 92% of orders came through digital channels. All managed by me. Loyal customers, marketing campaigns, product photos, descriptions, every detail passed through my hands. Without me, the store was just wood and glass. The following week, when Chase showed up with an investor, I felt like I was going to explode with anger. The man, suited and looking slightly lost, examined everything as if he were buying a racehorse. "This here is the heart of the project," said Chase, pointing at me as if he were pointing to a coffee maker. "Lana is like the technical brain of the operation. But the vision is mine." I simply smiled, because I knew what was coming next. 2 nights later, I posted on the store's Instagram an open letter, written with utmost care and without direct attacks. "The company you know today was born from a family story. It was born from the desire to honor my grandfather, to revive a legacy. Everything we built, the look, the products, the relationship with you, was created with love, effort, and personal investment. Recently, changes were made without my consent. And it is with a heavy heart that I announce, I am officially withdrawing from the operation of Studio Franklin. But do not worry. This is not a goodbye. It is just a new beginning." The post exploded. Outraged customers. Supportive comments. People reposting saying they only shopped at the store because of me. And then my phone rang. It was my mother. "Lana, what have you done?" I took a deep breath and answered with the calm she always mistook for weakness. "I just informed them that I'm no longer the ghost who builds things so others can shine." The next day, I arrived at the store earlier than usual. It was a gray Tuesday, one of those that seemed to forecast a storm, and perhaps that was exactly what was coming. I found Frank at the entrance, leaning against the wall with a cup of cold coffee and the expression of someone who was there only because he'd been ordered. He looked at me without saying anything, then moved aside. "What are you doing here?" he asked in a tired voice, as if the entire drama were a personal inconvenience. "I'm here to collect what is mine," I replied, entering without hesitation. I knew that Diane and Chase wouldn't be there yet. They never arrived before 11 a.m. As always, the store was opened by the team I had personally hired and trained, and who, after my social media post, were ready for battle. 2 employees resigned. Another 3 sent messages of support saying they were there for me, not for an Instagram air. But I wasn't there just to show strength. I had a mission. That morning, I entered the back office and began gathering everything that was mine. Laptop, notes, customer records, physical and digital files, campaign drafts, even the reference books on the shelf. Everything belonged to me. Even the design of the store's logo, created by me and registered in my name. Chase thought it was just a drawing with some pretty letters. I also took my original contract. Yes, the one my mother swore was merely symbolic. But with the evidence I had gathered, it could become a key piece in a legal case. When they arrived around 11:15 a.m., the store was quieter than usual. I was sitting at the reception desk with boxes stacked beside me. "Have you lost your mind?" was the first thing Chase said. "No. I just woke up." Diane then entered, carrying her purse as if it were a sword. She wasted no time. "All this because of a post? You let the drama get to your head, is that it?" "It's not drama, Mom. It's the truth. I built this company. And now I'm leaving it, with everything that is mine. You signed the renunciation of your name. It's recorded. Chase is the legal owner." "Yes," I replied, facing her. "But I can prove that there was vitiated consent, manipulation, and deviation from a verbal agreement backed by documentary evidence. Do you really want this to go to court?" She hesitated for a second, almost imperceptibly. But I saw it. And I took advantage. Because if it does, it won't just be the company's name at stake. It will be both of your names. In the public square. Chase tried to laugh. "You think anyone will believe that you were deceived? A woman, educated, smart, MBA, who signed documents without reading them. It's not about reading. It's about trust. The trust that you both destroyed." He turned pale. For the first time, Chase wasn't acting. He was scared. "And there's more," I continued. "You may keep this physical space. But all the customer base, the visual identity, the digital channels, they are in my name. If you want to continue using them, you'll have to negotiate. With me." Diane crossed her arms. She still tried to maintain control, but something inside her was beginning to unravel. Perhaps it was pride. Perhaps it was the fear of seeing everything crumble before the eyes of the entire city. "You've always had difficulty accepting that you're not the protagonist of the story, Lana." "No. The problem is that you always wanted me to be the backdrop, while placing Chase at the center of the stage." I didn't shout. I didn't cry. And most importantly, I didn't ask for anything. I left with dignity, taking my boxes and the conviction that I had done what was right. But what I didn't expect was what came next. That same week, a local newspaper published an article. Studio Franklin Company faces internal controversy after founding partner's departure. A journalist contacted me after seeing my post and decided to investigate. The article was discreet yet precise. It didn't directly attack anyone, but it made clear that the operational foundation had been built by me, and that the person whose name was on the deed didn't possess even half the technical qualifications. The comments on the newspaper's website exploded. Longtime customers, neighbors, even former teachers commented on the injustice. Many said they would stop buying from the store. Others asked where they could find my products. It was then that I realized I didn't need to fight for a corrupted structure. I could create my own. With help from Riley and my Aunt Tina, we rented a small but well-located space on the other side of town, a creative co-working space with soul. I renovated everything with the money that remained, and with the strength of people who truly believed in me. The name? Alvorecer Studio. Because after the darkest night, a new day always comes. The smell of fresh coffee and newly treated wood still moves me. That Saturday morning when we opened the doors of Alvorecer Studio for the first time, the sun seemed to shine only on our side of the street. It was a simple, small space without luxury, but full of meaning. Every plant in the corner, every repurposed table, every detail of the interior design was chosen with intention. Everything there exuded truth. And this time it was mine. Truly mine. Without manipulation. Without betrayal. Without ambiguous contracts. Without false smiles. Riley prepared a playlist with my favorite songs. Tina brought cheese bread and arranged the shelves with the care of someone who understands the weight of the moment. I wore my white cotton shirt, the same one I wore on the day I was demoted at the old store, and walked in smiling. The store was full even before 10 a.m. Old customers came to hug me. A woman said, "You have no idea what this means to us. It's more than just a store." A young boy handed me a note. "Thank you for not giving up on your truth." And I knew at that moment that I didn't need to destroy anyone to win. But the universe has its own sense of justice. Less than 2 months after my departure, Studio Franklin began to crumble. First there were delays in deliveries. Then mistakes on social media. Disastrous campaigns with phrases copied from Pinterest, layouts lacking identity. Even the products lost quality. Chase tried to replace our partner artisans with cheaper suppliers. Reviews began to plummet. The store's reputation, built with so much sweat and care, was dissolving in the hands of those who never understood that business is, above all, about relationships. I heard that Diane tried to convince some of my former employees to come back. They refused. They said they preferred to stay where there was respect and purpose. One day I met Frank in the supermarket parking lot. He looked more dejected than ever. He seemed smaller, emptied. He looked at me as if he were seeing someone who had exceeded all expectations. "You won, right?" he said. I looked at him and replied calmly. It wasn't about winning. It was about not accepting to lose to someone who never truly played the game. The following week I received an email from Chase. Short direct. "Can we talk? About a possible merger? Or partnership?" I did not reply. Because what I had built at Alvoricer Studio was more than just a business. It was a home for everything I had represented in silence for years. A living, concrete response to the erasure my mother tried to impose on me. And now, finally, there was no more silence. I was afraid, yes. Insecure. There were nights when I cried looking at the ceiling, wondering if all of this made sense. But every customer who entered the store and said, "This place has soul," reminded me that it did. I hadn't just recovered what was mine. I had redefined myself. My mother tried calling me several times. First with her cold voice as always. Then with a more vulnerable tone. I didn't answer. Not out of spite, but because I needed that space away from her. Distance is a form of healing. And perhaps she too needs to learn what it is like to lose something she thought she'd have forever. Today, sitting behind the counter of Alvoricer Studio, I write these words as a way to close a chapter. I no longer need to prove anything. Not to them. Not to the city. Not even to myself. I am still that girl who spent nights crying while fixing spreadsheets. I am still the woman who invested every penny in a family promise. But now I am also the businesswoman who had the courage to start over. Who decided not to be just an auxiliary piece in someone else's game. I am Lana, and this is my story. And if you are reading this and feeling that someone has taken something from you, know that it is not the end. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is living in peace with what you built with your own hands. Even if it takes time. Even if no one sees it. Because when the sun rises on your side, you no longer need to prove that you deserve the light. What did you think of this story of revenge and justice? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and tell me which moment was your favorite. Would you have done something differently? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and don't miss any of our stories full of twists and impactful endings.